Hi guys, it's Suri, so welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to talk about some books that I think I honestly should never have read. This doesn't necessarily mean that these are shit books. It kind of just means that what I expect from them and like kind of thought that they were going to be about and what was going to happen did not match up with reality. So kind of the books were sold to me in a different light than what they ended up being. So without further ado, let's just get into the list. The first book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. The reason I think I should not have read this is because I definitely thought it was going to be quite different. I guess I expected this to be a little bit more literary than it was. And I don't mean that to sound like condescending, but that's just what I thought. I thought it was going to be a bit more in-depth, a bit more deep than it ended up being. It's definitely a little bit more on a chicklet side in my opinion, or like a fluffy, light contemporary side. And that's just not what I thought it was going to be. So I think if I'd known what it was ahead of time and I kind of adjusted my expectations accordingly, I might have been able to enjoy this more. But instead I was kind of just like checking it against my expectations and the book was falling flat. So, you know, it wasn't really as much a fault of the book. Maybe it was, but it was also, you know, me thinking I was going to read a different book from one that I ended up reading. The next book I should not have read is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is a bind-up of a horror manga series that I read last year. So this is kind of, again, more a me thing because when I hear horror or thriller, I expect it to be thrilling and terrifying, not just on a visual level, but also on a story level, on a like psychological horror level. And this book just did not deliver that for me, to be honest. The main scary thing in this book is the art. And if you're not somebody who gets easily scared just by looking at pictures, I'm not sure this is the book for you, or for me in this case. I went into this thinking it was going to be a lot scarier than it ended up being, and in fact I was quite bored for large portions of this because to me nothing really seemed to happen. Basically this is set in a town in Japan that is haunted by spirals, and people start seeing spirals everywhere, and then eventually they like turn into spirals or die in some gruesome way. And while that is in itself kind of scary, I was also expecting the story that goes along with that to have some scary elements or be like super creepy, haunting me at night, like causing me to have nightmares and stuff like that, and it just was not the case. In each of these individual manga stories, the plot is kind of the same as I just said, like people start seeing spirals everywhere, they turn into spirals, and then they die. And you know, I don't know about you, but for me, that just was not super thrilling. So I kind of regret buying this, I regret reading this. I'm just trying to warn you here, if you're toying with the idea of picking up this bind-up, thinking it's going to be the creepiest thing you've ever read, you might also be a little bit disappointed. The next book I should never have read, for multiple reasons, is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This was a highly beloved, very popular fantasy. Last year, everybody and their mother read this and gave it super high ratings. And if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I was not a fan of this book. I did a like 50-minute video on it. You can check that out if you missed it. Basically, this book was not good in my opinion. And the reason I say I should not have read it is because it made me bitter. Kind of like, I don't know. I said this multiple times before, to me it's much worse to go into a book with high expectations and then have those disappointed, rather than not really thinking much of a book before reading it, and then it's just kind of meh, and you're like, okay, this just wasn't for me. And this is the case where not only did I think it was going to be a book before reading it, but also the first half of the book I actually really enjoyed. It was definitely on like a 4-star level. And then all of a sudden, 50% into the book, it went completely off the deep end, and I did not recognize the book and the story and the characters anymore. And to me, that was, I don't want to be like super dramatic here, but it was kind of a traumatic experience in the sense that I felt robbed. I felt like a book that I was going to enjoy was taken from me. I felt like I almost deserved to read a good book now because the first half sold that to me, but then the second half did not deliver on it. And I just felt cheated. I felt personally victimized, if you want to go super, super dramatic here. And I honestly feel like I would have been better off not reading this at all, considering how I ended up feeling about it. Next is actually a series that I should probably never have started, and that is the Archived series by Victoria Schwab. The issue here is that it is still unfinished. And so far there are 2 books out, the Archived and the Unbound, and the 3rd book was canceled by the publisher somehow because it wasn't selling enough or something like that. I don't know. But basically the story just left us hanging in midair. And I've been pining for a continuation of this for so long. And Victoria Schwab is not my favorite author, and I actually have sort of decided not to read anything by her again. That's nothing to do with this series. But I feel like, again, kind of cheated, because at the time of reading these for the first time, I really enjoyed them and I really, really wanted the 3rd book. And now I am, I think, too old for the 3rd book. For even if it did come out, like, I don't think I would enjoy it now. And so I think there's nothing worse than really, really enjoying a series and then never getting that ending that you really craved at the time. And then again, over time, losing interest, but still feeling a little bit cheated that you didn't get that ending, that you didn't get that closure that you wanted from the series that you actually really enjoyed. So that was my experience with that, and I think I would honestly also have been better off just not reading it and then, you know, having had to stop in the middle. That's frustrating. That's just how it is. And the last book that I probably should never have read because it sold itself to me, based on the title, as a completely different book than what it ended up being, is How to Fight Islamist Terror from the Missionary Position by Tabish Khair. I read this book last year, and it is sort of like a satire, humor type novel. It's set, if I remember correctly, in the Netherlands or Denmark, and it follows a Muslim character, a Pakistani character, and I don't know what where the third person is from, but basically it's about this guy like living, or these 2 guys living with a extremist Muslim roommate, and the roommate is like kind of plotting, it turns out, like a terrorist attack. And to be honest, like, I just did not get out of this book what it, I think, intended to do. Like, I'm not sure. The title is really intriguing, I think, and it sounded like it was going to deal with some very interesting, difficult topics, but instead it was just kind of rambling. It didn't seem to have much of a point, didn't deliver on the humor that was implied either, and I just don't understand what this book was trying to do, essentially. It was not for me. It's not a funny take. It's not a critical view at the issues. It doesn't seem to have a clear point, in my opinion, and there's no fighting Islamist terror. There's no like even real mention of like how the missionary position is at all involved in that. I don't know. I just found it confusing and kind of pointless, and the title is good, but kind of that's about it, unfortunately. And that is it for some books that I probably should never have read because of various reasons. I just explained them to you. Let me know in the comments which books fall into this category for you. Which books do you think you just would have been better off not reading for whatever reason? Leave them in the comments down below. Also, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I upload every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday, and I hope to see you very soon with another video. Until then, have a lovely week. Bye!